Shakur Stevenson is now criticizing Frank Martin as an opponent for Tank Davis. It's not really making sense to me in this video. Stay tuned. I'll explain why. It doesn't make sense what Shakur is saying.
You think Tank washes you think he washes Frank Martin?
I mean, that's why he fighting him. He's picking and choosing. That's what he do. Tank take the least risk. If Tank was really a risky nigga or this person he claimed to be, he would have fought Edwin De Los Santos. Why not fight the nigga that actually fought me instead of the nigga that pulled out from fighting me? But Frank Martin is not like no elite fighter. Frank Martin is a dude that signed up to fight me, got famous for signing up to fight me, and then not fighting me. That's what he got famous. That's what he's famous for. Literally, when they said Shakur versus Frank Martin was gonna fight, bro, this nigga name done blew up. And now we up here like we gonna fight each other. Then he backed out the fight.
Nasty work. Nasty work what Shakur's saying. So he did an interview with Say Cheese, and that's what he said. I've been meaning to make this video. So he's somehow trying to undermine or downplay Frank Martin now that he's fighting Gervonta Davis. But it makes no sense what he's saying for so many reasons. For one, he says that Tank is fighting Frank Martin. He's not a risky dude. If he was really like that, why wouldn't he fight Edwin De Los Santos? Weird statement, but let's stick to the Frank Martin. Then he goes on to say Frank is not like that. Frank Martin's not an elite fighter, so who cares? Immediately after saying that Frank Martin is not an elite fighter, despite him being undefeated, 18-0 with 12 knockouts and a southpaw, right? He says, I was gonna fight against Frank Martin. So you're trying to dump on Gervonta Davis's resume now that he has the Frank Martin fight, but then after you dump on the fight and you dump on Frank Martin and say he's not elite, you say you were gonna fight him. But boxing doesn't work with coulda, shoulda, woulda, right? It was rumored you were gonna fight him, your team couldn't get it done. And I distinctly remember at that time, Shakur was saying that Frank Martin made a huge, grave mistake. He was saying he made a big mistake because at the end of the day, he's not gonna find a fight that is better than a fight with him. That the lie detector test determined that was a lie, because the Gervonta Davis fight he's gonna make the money that's obviously making him comfortable to make the fight, which is why we have the fight. And beating Tank Davis as opposed to beating Shakur would be more of a upset, or it would just do more for your career. So that doesn't make sense. Also, he's bagging on Frank Martin and saying that, oh yeah, Frank ain't really like that. His claim to fame is fighting me. I mean, this is like delusions of grandeur. He's saying that nobody knew who Frank Martin was until his name got linked to me. I have been checking for Frank Martin. I mean, I was very impressed even with the Michelle Rivera fight. And this was before the Shakur Stevenson fight. Then he fought Jackson Marinas, a guy that Rolly struggled with, and then he stopped him. So people have been checking for Frank Martin well before that. He also fought Romero Duno, who Ryan Garcia had already fought. So people have been following Frank Martin's path. I don't know why Shakur would go there and say that. But strangely, he's dissing Frank Martin, and guess who his next opponent is? Artem Harutyan. You see this? Shakur Stevenson. Who did he fight before last year? Frank Martin at the Cosmopolitan in LA, and Frank Martin beat him and nearly stopped him in the last round. Exhibit motherfucking A. So how are you gonna say Frank Martin ain't like that and Tank should be fighting Edwin De Los Santos? You're bagging on Frank Martin, but then you're fighting Frank Martin's leftovers, literally the guy he beat and almost stopped in his very last fight. But then you're somehow bagging on Gervonta Davis versus Frank Martin, trying to make the public believe that it's not a good fight, and you're legit fighting Artem Harutyan. You're saying, oh, who's Frank Martin? Nobody was checking for him, but you're fighting the guy he just beat. I mean, this doesn't make any sense. You guys know it. I know it. It is what it is. Shakur, I guess you could say he's entitled to his opinion, but Shakur said that Frank Martin made a dumb decision because he wasn't going to find a fight that was bigger than him. And guess what? He found a fight that was bigger than him. So this just looks like hate. It is what it is.